Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up? And welcome back to the Board Game Garden and happy 2025. So this is my first video back in the new year. So hopefully you guys had a great holiday season. Hopefully you had a great New Year's and hopefully the beginning of 2025 has been good to you so far. Usually I do a video like this at the end of every single month, but you guys might have realized that for the last, I think it's been 3 months, I have missed doing my monthly wrap-ups. So basically this is going to be a little bit of a wrap up of the last 3 months. So what I've been playing in October, November, and December, some of my favorite games and standout games from the last 3 months. And I will say that I won't be doing any board game stats because since September, I think September was the last month that I actually did some like board game stats at all. I have just fallen off of board game stats. I will say one of my main goals for 2025, one of my main board game goals for 2025 is that I really want to stick to doing board game stats for all of 2025. 2024, I dropped off at a certain point. 2023, I dropped off at a certain point. So I've never really been good at keeping track of my plays. And I really want to this year be able to take a look back at the entire year and see my board game stats for the year. But for this video, I'm not going to be doing any board game stats, but we are going to go into the herb garden. So these are going to be some small box games that I've been enjoying recently. And then we're going to get into the top 10 games that I played in October, November, and December, which all 3 of those months have been very busy. So these are top 10 compiled of those 3 months, which I have played some really fantastic games within the last 3 months. So I'm excited to share those with you guys. So yes, if you guys want to hear all about those games, some of the games that I've been enjoying recently, then just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy. Also, hit that subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Without further ado, if you guys want to see all this, then just keep on watching and let's get into this video, shall we? All right, so quickly before I get into any of the games, I do want to give a quick shout out to a board game convention that I'm going to at the end of January. So this is going to be my first convention of 2025. It is one of my favorite conventions. I've mentioned it a few different times, but the convention that I'm talking about is Level Up. So I will be attending Level Up. It is in Woodbridge, New Jersey from January 31st to February 2nd. It is a 3-day board game playing convention, and that is one of my favorite things about it. I go there to play games, so definitely go and check it out. I will have the link down in the description box to the website. Tickets are still up for sale if you guys want to join and play some games. Like I said, this is the convention where I go and I just chill and I get a chance to actually play games, hang out. So if you guys are attending, I'd love to play some games with you. A ton of other content creators are attending as well. They have a ton of different things available there. They have hot games that are going to be available to play. They have play to wins. They have panels and events and different things that are going to be happening, and definitely go and check out, like I said, the website. I will have it linked down below if you want to see all the things that will be available there. So yes, definitely come join, come to Level Up. It'll be a really good time, and if you are joining, can't wait to see you, can't wait to hang out, and can't wait to play some games. All right, so getting into the herb garden. So I do have a few additional games than I normally do. I have 6 different games to talk about. 3 are going to be in one category because they're all from the same publisher, which I will just talk about those now. These have been 3 small box card games that I've been wanting to get played for so long. I got all 3 of these at Gen Con from the wonderful All Play. So these are 3 of their tiny box games. They additionally have a game called Fairy, which unfortunately I didn't enjoy as much, and I have since given it to a friend. But the other 3 that I have here, I just recently played, and I can confidently say that I enjoyed all 3 of these. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is Rainbow. I think this might be the one that I enjoyed the least out of the 3, but I still enjoyed this one quite a bit. But this is a shedding game where you are trying to get rid of all of your cards, and you're also trying to gain the most cards into your pile, because at the end of a game, you're going to count up all of the numbers in your pile. So each card is going to have a number. number. You're going to count up all of those numbers, and the player with the most victory points on those cards are going to be the winner. So this is a game for 3 to 6 players, and basically it is a shedding game. Like I said, one person is going to start. If the starter player plays a single card, the next player has to play either a single card, a set, or a run. And then once either a set or a run is played into a trick, then everyone has to follow with either that set or run. And you can play any number of cards in that set or run. And then basically what is going to happen is once everyone has played out their kind of set of cards, then you're going to go in, whoever played the most cards to the least cards, and you're going to draft cards from the center into your scoring piles. So the more cards that you play into your set, the earlier in turn order that you're going to be able to draft things from the center, and the more victory points you will get, because you can grab like pairs and stuff like that. All of the combos of cards that were played into the trick are then going to be pushed into the center for the next round for you to get and draft. So I really enjoyed this one, but like I said, not as much as these two. And the art is very, very cute on this as well. So that is the first one, which is Rainbow. The next one is the one that I enjoyed second best, and that is Prey. This is a trick-taking game where basically you're going to have a hand of 12 cards. You're going to play out the first 6 tricks with the one side, and then once there are 6 cards left in everyone's hands, everyone is going to flip their cards over, and that is going to be now some different numbers on the other side that you're going to have to play out. I think thematically it's that you're playing 6 tricks as the predator, and then you're flipping over and playing 6 tricks as the prey that survived. And before you even play any of those tricks, you're going to have 2 dice that you roll and place onto a card in front of you, and then those are going to be the 2 options of how many tricks you need to win. So for example, if I rolled a 2 and a 6, I would either have to try to win either 2 tricks or 6 tricks in order to gain a point. Once you've gained a point, you'd flip over your card, and then the first person to win 2 points would be the winner. So I really enjoy this one. It doesn't do anything incredibly different from other trick-taking games that I've played, but I do really enjoy the games where you flip over the cards and have different numbers, and it's really interesting to try to get that kind of bid. It kind of reminds me of those trick-taking games where you have like a bid that you're trying to go for, but this is just you roll and those are your 2 numbers, so you don't really get to look at your hand and decide how many tricks you think you'll win. You have your hand, you roll those 2 dice, and those are your determined number of tricks that you can win. So it's very interesting to try to get to those numbers, and then it's also very interesting to have those 6 cards that you're playing on the one side, and then the other 6 you have to flip over and play on the other side. So I really enjoy that. I really enjoy the look of this one as well. It's very cool and very like modern looking. So yeah, that is my second favorite of the 3, Prey. And then lastly, we have Panda Panda, which I really enjoyed this one. This is actually from the same designer as Nana, and this is a re-implementation of a game called Cat Poker, I believe. I actually purchased Dog Poker while I was in Japan. I was going to purchase Cat Poker, and then I realized that Panda Panda is the same game. Basically, you have a card that has a bunch of different configurations of hands, and you are just trying to have it come back around to your turn, and in your hand you have one of those configurations, and then you can play it down on your turn. But the thing is that whenever somebody on their turn, you can either pick up a card and put it into your hand, or you can discard a card in front of you. And whenever someone discards an A, because there's going to be letters A through G, and G is actually, there's only one G, and it's like the really pretty foiled card that you see a lot in Nana with the 7s. But you have a bunch of different letters, and whenever someone discards an A, you then, or everyone, has to pass a card to the person on their left. So you might have a configuration in your hand, and you're just hoping that it comes back around to you before someone discards an A, and you have to, change up what you have in your hand. So I think that's very cool. You also, instead of drawing from the middle pile, you can draw from somebody's face-up discard pile, which I think is cool. So really enjoyed Panda Panda. I really want to play this one again. I played it with 3 players, but I think this one will be really good at 4 players as well. And it kind of gives the same fun, quick, easy to play vibes as Nana. So I'm really happy to have this one, and I'm excited to play with more people. So that is my favorite out of the 3 from All Play. Huge thank you to All Play for sending me home with these at Gen Con. But those are their tiny box games. Definitely recommend checking them out. All right, moving on to the next card game. This is one that I actually picked up in Japan, and it's one that I was really interested in after seeing a few people grabbing it at Essen. But the game is called Milkuro, and this is a very cool game. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Prey that I was just talking about, where cards have 2 different sides to them. With this one, you have cards that are black and white. So you have a white side and then a black side, and you are going to be playing into tricks. The person that starts the trick, this is a standard trick-taking game. Whoever starts the trick has to say whether they are playing white or they're playing black, and then everyone has to follow with that color, and then whoever plays the highest of that color will then win that trick. And basically you are trying to win an equal amount of both. So if I win 1 white trick, I will then want to balance it out and win 1 black trick. If I've won 2 white tricks, then I have to try to balance it out and win 2 black tricks. I do believe that if you win evenly, you get positive points for all the tricks that you win, but then if you lose unevenly, you get negative points for the tricks that you won. So if I won a ton of white ones and I wasn't able to balance out with the black, so let's say I won 3 white tricks and 2 black tricks, that's not even, so I would get negative 5 victory points. I think that's how, if I remember correctly, how the scoring works. But basically you are trying to just win an equal amount of both, which is a very interesting thing to kind of play through. And the person, like I said, that is starting the trick has to say whether you are playing a trick that's white or black. So you as person that is following is not really able to choose which color that you're playing. So very cool, very interesting. I'm very happy that I picked this one up in Japan. I also picked it up for my friend Kat, and we were able to play it together. So that is Milkuro. Another game that I was able to play with some friends way back, and when I did, I liked it so much that I picked up my own copy. The game that I'm talking about is Fishing. So Fishing is designed by Friedman Freeze. You can tell by the green packaging that is a Friedman Freeze game, but this is a trick-taking, like, deck building game in a way. It's very cool, where it actually says Friedman's trick building game. So it's very cool because you are playing tricks and you're going to, all of the cards that you're going to win, it's a standard trick-taking game. Whoever plays the highest of the lead suit wins that trick. Whenever you win a trick, you're going to be able to take all of the cards. Granted, no one else takes any of the cards before, which some cards have some like special abilities that allow you to like take a card before the person that won took all of them. But you take all the cards that you've won and put them into your net. And then once you've played all the cards in your hand, then every player is going to count up how many cards are in their net. They're going to shuffle those and they're going to place them into their boat. And then for the next set of tricks, each round is going to have a different amount of cards. You're going to be drawing cards from your boat, and then whatever cards are remaining that you don't have in your boat that you have to get. So let's just say I won 1 trick that had 4 cards. I put those into my boat. I pick up those for the next round. I have 4 cards in my hand, but the next round, every player needs 8 cards. I would actually get those remaining 4 cards that I needed from this deck of cards that give you better and better upgraded cards. So you're kind of wanting to win tricks because you get victory points for the tricks that you won, all the cards that you won in those tricks. But at the same time, you don't want to win tricks because the more cards that you do win, those are going to be going towards your hand of cards for the next round. But if you don't win any, you get new, better cards that then you'll like do better in the next round. So I think it's very cool. With the better cards, they're going to introduce a trump suit into the game. It's going to introduce higher and higher cards of each suit into the game. It's also going to introduce buoy cards into the game, which are going to be cards that you can play into a trick whenever you want, that are going to give you special abilities. It's going to allow you to, there's like a 0 card that obviously you lose that trick, but the 0 card allows you to take a card from the winning trick before the player that won takes the rest of them. So you can kind of yank a good card that you can use in a future round. I could go on and on about this one. This is a fantastic trick-taking game, and I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to play it. I pre-ordered it, and I'm really, really happy that I have it now because it was very fun, and I'm excited to play it more. I will say it is a pretty long trick-taking game. That's the only negative about it, is that it can drag on for a pretty long time. We played a 5-player game of this, I believe, so at the full player count of 5. And it took us about 45 minutes to an hour to play. So if you're not a huge fan of trick-taking games that take a while to play, I definitely don't recommend it, but it is definitely worth it because it's one of the better trick-taking games I've played and I've really enjoyed it. So that is another card game that I wanted to shout out. Fishing. And lastly, for the card games that I wanted to shout out in the herb garden, we have the most adorable little game. I found this game at PAX Unplugged. It was at one of the like indie game booths, and the game that I'm talking about is Pot Holic. Can we just talk about how cute this game is? All of the cards in this game are the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. Basically, you are having hot pot with your friends, and you're going to be playing into tricks that then is going to be made your like priority order from taking things from the hot pot. Everyone has their plate in front of them, and you're going to be taking things from the center based on your priorities. So everyone's going to play a card into the trick. The only rules for this is that you can't play the same number as another person. So if one person plays a 1, no one else can play a 1. And then once everyone has played a different number, that's going to determine your ranking or your priority when it comes to taking something from the center, because there's going to be a bunch of cards in the center in the hot pot, and you're then going to be, based off of your priority, taking a certain amount of things from the center. So if you are first to take, you can only take 1 thing. If you're second to take, you can take 2 things. Third to take, you take 3 things. And then if you're last, you can take up to 4 things. Granted, there are things left over. So yes, you're going first, but you get to take less things. So I think that's very cool. And then what you're doing is you're either taking things from the center based off of your priority, or you are taking things that you already have on your plate and you're going to be eating them. So like I said, you can either take 1 thing, you could eat 1 thing, and whatever you have eaten by the end of the game is going to be scored based off of some different like objectives. So there's going to be objectives like you get victory points based off of the different straights that you have. The bigger the straights that you have, the more victory points you get. Whenever you do a perfect eat, which is eating the perfect amount based off of your priority. So if you had 3 things on your plate and you got 3rd priority and you were able to eat those 3 things, that would be a perfect eat. And then you would go up on this little like temperature track, and then the higher you're up on the temperature track, you get a certain amount of victory points. There's also going to be a bunch of different objectives based off of colors, numbers, different things like that. So it's a very fun, very different feeling trick-taking game that I've really, really enjoyed. It's almost like trick-taking set collection drafting in a way, which I think is cool. So yes, that is Pot Holic. I'm so, so happy that I picked this one up at PAX Unplugged, and I definitely recommend checking it out if you can find it. That is Pot Holic. All right, so we are finally finished with the herb garden. So we are going to move right into the top 10 games of the last 3 months. Apologies for the herb garden taking so long. I'm going to try to get through these 10 games pretty quickly and give you guys a quick overview of each of them. But all of these games I am so, so excited to chat to you guys about. So the first game that I wanted to mention is a game that is a re-implementation of another game. And the game that I'm talking about is the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. Yes, that's it. So this is a re-implementation of Seven Wonders Duel. I really enjoy Seven Wonders Duel, and Francis and I had an opportunity to play this one a few times. So this is a 2-player only game, just like Seven Wonders Duel, and it is taking place obviously in the Lord of the Rings universe. One player is playing as Frodo and the gang, and then the other player is playing as Sauron, I forget how to say his name. But yes, it's very similar to Seven Wonders Duel, where you are going to be drafting a card from this kind of layout of cards. Some cards are face up, some cards are face down, and then once cards are taken off of a face down card, that card is then flipped over for another player to take. And there are a bunch of different types of cards that whenever you take them, you're going to do some sort of action. In Seven Wonders Duel, there are very similar actions, but in this one, they kind of take those similar actions and put it like thematically into the Lord of the Rings universe. So I really enjoyed it. It is number 10 on the list because it is very similar to Seven Wonders Duel, but I feel like if you enjoy Seven Wonders Duel and you like Lord of the Rings, I definitely recommend checking it out. If you've never played Seven Wonders Duel before, but you really enjoy Lord of the Rings, I definitely recommend, because Seven Wonders Duel and this game are fantastic two-player games. But lastly, if you don't like Seven Wonders Duel, then I don't think you would enjoy this one because they're very similar. So yes, Lord of the Rings, The Duel for Middle-earth. I've really enjoyed this one. I'm excited to play it more. Francis also really enjoyed this one. And yes, that is my number 10 for the last 3 months. Number 9 is a game that I actually do not have physically. This is a game that my wonderful friend Jay from Cardboard East, I will link his channel down below. He brought it to PAX Unplugged for us to play together. So we ended up playing this at PAX Unplugged with a few other people. Sam from Lord the Board, shout out to Sam, as well as his friend Tyler. And this game is Come Sail Away. So this has been a Sashi and Sashi game that I've really wanted to try for a long time. I tried to find it in Japan, couldn't find it. I was hoping that with Sashi and Sashi being at PAX Unplugged this year, that they would have some copies of Come Sail Away available, but they did not. But this is one that I was so happy that Jay brought because I've been wanting to play it for a while, and it did not disappoint. It was a very fun game. It was definitely more of a simple game than I thought Come Sail Away was. For some reason, I thought Come Sail Away was some big chunky Euro game, but it's Sashi and Sashi. What was I thinking? I don't know. But basically, this is a closed drafting Mancala meeple placement game, which I think is very cool. Each player is going to have their own ship, and then you're going to have a hand of cards, and you're going to, actually not really a hand of cards, you pick up 2 cards, and then you choose one to use, and then you pass the other one to the other player. But the card that you choose is going to have certain colored meeples that you have to place in a specific order. And you have to place them in a Mancala, which is basically that you have to place them one here, one here, one here, kind of all in adjacent rooms, because each ship is going to be made up of all of these different rooms that are going to need specific colored meeples and specific arrangements of meeples placed into those in order to score them. So some rooms might need one of 4 different meeples. Some rooms might need 4 of the same color. Some rooms might need specific ones in specific places, so on and so forth. So you have to strategically draft these different cards that get you these different meeples in order to place them specifically in these spots. As you actually flip over those scored tiles, once you've finished them, that kind of blocks off your different routes for being able to place these meeples in that Mancala way. So it's this very thinky, puzzly game. You can play this solo, which I would love to get a copy of this to play solo because I think it'd be a great puzzly game to play. I was not expecting it to be a like puzzly game. I was expecting it to be like a heavy Euro with a ton of things going on. So it was very it was a pleasant surprise, let's just say that. I really liked it, and that is why it is my number 9. Moving on to the next game. This is a fairly simple game, and I was really excited to play this one. I had played this once before on BGA, and then I was finally able to pick up a copy from the same place that I got Pot Holic at PAX Unplugged, and the game that I'm talking about is Castle Combo. So this is published by Pandasaurus Games. I do believe that it was also initially published by Ketchup Games, and then Pandasaurus has brought it over. Ketchup Games are the same people that published Mind Up, as well as Courtesans, and also Far Away, if I'm not mistaken. But Castle Combo kind of reminds me a little bit, speaking of Far Away, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Far Away, where you are drafting these cards and then placing them into these different arrangements in order to score the most victory points. And each card is going to score in different ways. Each card, when you place it, you're going to be able to get coins, which you need coins in order to purchase these cards that you're placing. And then you're also going to be getting keys, which keys are going to allow you to, you have this little guy on a horse, and he is going to either be in the top row or the bottom row, and you can only draft from the top or the bottom where that little guy is. So if he's not in the row that you want to draft from, you can spend a key in order to move him down to that row. You can also spend a key in order to get rid of or sweep that kind of row to get you a new set of 3 cards to draft from. And like I said, you're going to be paying for them and then placing them into this 3x3 area, and then you're going to be scoring for each of those cards. Some cards are going to be like score 4 victory points for every orange card. So each card is going to have these different icons in the top right hand corner. So one might be score orange cards in the top, down, left, and right of this card, and different things like that. Some cards you put coins on that are going to get you victory points at the end. Some will be like score this many victory points if it's in this specific spot of your 3x3 grid. So you're really just trying to draft those cards, place them in the best spots as possible in order to get the most victory points as possible, while still managing those coins and keys, because if you run out of coins, you're not going to be able to get any cards unless you get 0 coin cards, which there's some of those. If you run out of keys, then you have kind of less, options when it comes to changing up where that guy is, as well as sweeping the rows to get new cards. So yes, I've really enjoyed this one. I love Far Away, so any kind of game that gives me that drafting puzzly type game, I know that I'm really going to enjoy. So that is Castle Combo. Moving on to number 7. This is a game that I have played both solo and multiplayer, and I really enjoy it both ways. And I think I might have actually talked about this one in another video. It might have been one of like my Christmas recommendation videos, but it's funny because this game is actually published by Ketchup Games as well. They're making some great games. Shout out to Ketchup Games. But this game right here is Rivages or Rivages. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, but this is a closed drafting kind of like draft and write? I guess it is a draft and write. Basically, everyone is going to start with a different island, and each island is going to be made up of a bunch of different terrain spots you guys will see in the B-roll, and you're going to have cards that you're going to be drafting, and you're going to have 2 cards that you're going to be given, and each of those cards are going to have a few different rows of options of these different terrain spaces that you can cross off and then kind of write those down or place those into your island or on your island. And each island is going to have different goals that you're trying to achieve. And then once you have finished an island, so once you have gone from one ship spot to another, so you can actually decide to kind of complete an island quicker than others. Some people might decide to explore the island a little bit more than others before they decide to finish it. Some people might spend less time, get less of the objectives finished, but then be able to get a new island. So whenever you finish an island, you get a new island that has new objectives. It's a completely different shape. Every island is completely different, which I think is one of my favorite parts of it. But the thing with the cards is you're going to only have the option of the 2 topmost that are available. So if you have one card that the top one is scratched out, you have the second kind of option to choose from, or the other card is going to have their topmost available as well. You're also going to have some additional things that you're going to be able to get. You have these little blue bags that you can get, and then you also have these different icons throughout each of the islands that are going to allow you to do different things, scratch off additional spaces. They're also going to allow you to go up this little like track that you have on the side that then gets you more victory points, and your goal is to just get the most victory points as possible, which are like these little scrolls. So I really enjoy this one. I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. It's just very chill, very satisfying because you're just going through these islands and exploring, trying to get these different objectives, and then moving on to the next island, finishing those, moving on to the next island. It is just so much fun, and I really love that like closed drafting mechanism as well. So yes, love this one. That is Rivages or Rivages. That is, I believe, my number 7. Moving on to number 6. This is a pretty hefty game that I played for the first time at PAX Unplugged. And this was a game that I have kind of like seen here and there, but I've never really been like super like, oh my goodness, I have to play that. But the game is called Mosaic. I think it's a story of civilization. I've heard a ton of great things about it, but just the look of it and stuff didn't really like call for me, but I'm really happy that I ended up playing it. So I ended up playing a, I believe, 6-player game of this, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been a 5-player game of this, but I played it with a few people at PAX Unplugged one night and I enjoyed it very, very much. This game has a little bit of area majority where you're going to be placing different buildings out onto this map that has a bunch of different regions, and there's going to be like periodic scoring that you're going to score for who has majority kind of like influence with their buildings on each of these different regions. And I think the thing that I like the most about this game is just there are so many like different things that you can do, and all of the actions are super simple. It's a pretty hefty game, like I said, but it doesn't feel like a hefty game because the things that you're doing on your turn are just very simple. There are, I think, 8 different actions that you can do. There is a taxing action, which like is not my favorite when there's taxes in a game, but it is a civilization game, so it makes sense. But you are building buildings out on the map. You are putting different like soldiers or military out onto the map, which is going to help you with those different area majority kind of things. You're also going to be grabbing these different technology cards, which has a little bit of like set collection to it, where each of the cards are going to have these different icons on them. There are a bunch of different icons, and each technology card, you're going to need specific icons in order to take it. And each of those technology cards are going to do a bunch of different things. I will say the only kind of negative thing about this game for me is that there is a lot of cards on the table. There's a lot of stuff on the table, and all of the cards have different text on them. So it is a little bit finicky in that way, where you are trying to like see all the cards and read what all of the cards say. You're also having to look at this huge map, which the like iconography and like the different illustrations for all of the different buildings are a little bit hard to see. And then also like the player colors on the building are a little bit hard to see because it's just around the edge of each building that has the player color. So yeah, I would say that is the only like negative thing I would say about the game. But it has so many like different objectives that you're going for. You can build these different wonders, which are a little bit pricey. I don't think in the game I was able to afford a wonder, because the first person to build a wonder, it's the cheapest. And then as more and more people build wonders, the more expensive they get. And resources in the game are a little bit difficult to come by. So that was a little bit difficult, but there's also these different objectives that are kind of time-based. So whoever gets to those objectives first will then take those objectives, and there's a bunch of different variable tiles that can be in the game that people get as they get those objectives. So that's very fun. I do love a game that has a ton of objectives. So yeah, Mosaic was very, very fun. I would love to play it again. I'd love to play it with my game group here locally. I think that they would enjoy it a lot as well. So that was my number 6, Mosaic. All right, moving on to number 5. Hopefully this video is not getting too long. I have a feeling it is, so I'm going to try to get through these last 5 games as quick as possible, but I just love talking about games, so hopefully you guys are enjoying. Anyways, the game that I wanted to talk about that is my number 5 is this game right here, which is Nova Roma. So this was sent to me by 25th Century Games, and when they sent this to me, I didn't really know a ton about it. I knew that it was designed by Stan Kordonski, I believe, which I do believe is the same person that designs Endless Winter, possibly? He is the designer of Endless Winter, I just checked. But this is a game that, like I said, I didn't really know a ton about, but once I started to learn it, I automatically knew that it was going to be a game that I would really enjoy, because it has a ton of little like mini games, and it has this really cool mechanism in the center where you have this grid of actions, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Barcelona, where basically where you place your worker, because this is a little bit of like a worker placement game in a way, but where you place your worker, you are then going to trigger the icon that is in the row and the column. But with this one, unlike Barcelona, the more workers that you place in a row or a column, the stronger the action is going to be that you perform. And all of the different actions, like I said, are little mini games. And there's just something about games that have mini games that just make me so happy. So when I realized that this one had mini games, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a game that I will enjoy. And I will say that this one also has a solo mode that I've heard is pretty good, so I'm very excited to try out the solo mode. But some of the mini games are that you can like build these different buildings, and you're going to be placing cubes into different configurations into these 3 areas, and where you place them, you're going to kind of do area majorities. Whoever has the most cubes in each of those areas is going to get more and more victory points at the end of the game. You also can like recruit different people that are then going to give you kind of ongoing abilities and endgame scoring and different things like that. You are going to be sailing your ship around this little track. What other things? You're going to be going up these 3 tracks that are the hippodrome, if I think that's what it was called. But basically whoever's like furthest on those different tracks are going to get more victory points. And then additionally, you also have your own board that you can get these different tiles and place them onto your board that then you can place your artisans onto to get different resources and endgame scoring and stuff. And then probably one of my favorite parts is each player is going to have this little grid beside their board that are going to be different goals. So you're going to have a bunch of different goals that you're trying to complete, and you're trying to complete these goals in rows and columns, not columns. Are they in columns? I think they're just in rows. I could be wrong, but once you've finished a row of these different goals, you will then get something for them, some reward. You can also do like a diagonal. You'll get a reward from that. And I do believe that they are in columns as well. So it's this very cool, like completing goals in rows and columns. And I just love that part of the game. There's a lot of rows and columns in this game, and it's very much so a point salad game where you're trying to just get a ton of victory points in different games and these different mini games. So yes, I'm going to stop yapping about this, but I really enjoyed Nova Roma, so I'm hoping to get to play it a little bit more, and that is why it is my number 5. All right, moving on to number 4. This one is quite interesting because I played this game for the first time back in 2022. I think it was like right after the Kickstarter campaign finished for this one, but it is now out on retail, and the game that I'm talking about is Let's Go to Japan. So ever since Francis and I got back from Japan, I have just thought about this game because I really enjoyed it when I first played it, but I didn't really have that same connection to it as I have now because Francis and I went to Japan. We absolutely loved it. And then now seeing all of the different cards in this game and like seeing the things that we did and the places that we went and the temples and activities and stuff is just so cool to me. And the fact that with this game you are literally like planning out a trip to Japan, it's just absolutely perfect. So we ended up playing this with some friends, and I've played this one solo as well a few times, and I have just loved this. I've also played it a few times on BGA because it's coming to BGA, which is awesome. But I really enjoy this one. It is a very puzzly, close drafting game. You're going to be picking different cards to place into different columns, and you're trying to get like icons in these different columns. And you're also trying to complete these different goals, basically the last card in each column, because each column or each day is going to have 3 different cards in them. You can have up to 4, but that's when you take a walk, which is something else that I won't explain. But you generally will have 3 cards in each day, and the last card that you have layered at the bottom is going to have an objective at the bottom that you have to have certain things in order to complete that objective. And as you go throughout the day, you're going to have the days in the past in order to complete that, and you're not going to have the things like in front of it because that hasn't happened yet because it's in the future, which makes sense. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Far Away in a way, because you're trying to have these certain icons on these certain cards in order to score these different objectives, and you're scoring based off of these different icons and different things that you have prior to the card that you're scoring. So I really enjoy that puzzly aspect of the game. I absolutely love closed drafting. It's one of my favorite mechanisms. So this game having that closed drafting, that puzzly card mechanism that I love as well. I just love this game. And then just it being you planning for a trip to Japan is just the cherry on top. So yeah, that is why Let's Go to Japan is my number 4. Moving on to number 3. This is another game that has lots of cards and cards with abilities. I have discovered recently that games that have just cards that you're placing into a tableau, or just cards that you're trying to decide which one to play and different things like that. I really enjoy that in games. So the game that I'm talking about, and my number 3, is Ancient Knowledge, which additionally I have the Heritage expansion, which offers the like solo mode for it. So I'm super excited to play this one solo eventually, but I've only played this one multiplayer a few times, and I love this game. It is so good. It is, like I just said, a game where you have a ton of different cards that you're trying to do different things with. And these cards are going to be placed above your board. And there's a little bit of this like conveyor belt mechanism, which I think is super cool. And basically whenever you place a card, it is going to tell you where that card starts. And then at the end of every round, all cards are going to be shifting one to the left until they fall off your board, and then those are going to be going into, I believe, your history or something. This is, I think, like a civilization kind of game where you are building out your civilization and like the history of your civilization and stuff. So you have these cards and they're going to be placed, and then they have these like different tablets that are going to be placed onto them, and you have to find different ways in order to get those tablets off, because if that card makes it all the way to the end of the conveyor belt and it still has these tablets on them, you're going to get negative victory points for those tablets. So it's this constant thing of placing these cards into your conveyor belt and doing some sort of ability on that card. Some cards are going to be just automatic things that you can do. Some of them are going to be ongoing abilities that you can place onto your board. Some of them are going to be end game scoring and stuff like that based off of what's in your history and things like that. But then, like I said, those tablets, you're going to be constantly trying to figure out a way to get those off in order to avoid negative victory points when they fall off. And then additionally, you also have some like technology cards that you're going to be going for. And in order to gain those technology cards, you're going to have something completed. They're going to be kind of like little objectives, and then once you've gotten those technology cards, then they give you a different kind of reward or ability. But yes, just a game with lots of cards and this like puzzly kind of thing going on. So I've really enjoyed Ancient Knowledge. I definitely recommend, if you enjoy games that have lots of cards and lots of abilities and like a puzzly card game, I definitely recommend this one. And if you're looking for it to play solo, they do have the Ancient Knowledge expansion here that allows you to play solo, and it also additionally adds some different things into the game as well. So that is Ancient Knowledge, my number 3. Number 2 is a big boy that I have played just once, but I can already tell by that one play that I freaking love this game. And the only reason why this game is at number 2 and not number 1 is that it is a big game and it takes a really long time. And I am usually not the hugest fan of games that take hours and hours. I usually kind of, unless the game is absolutely fantastic, which this one is, so I actually don't mind that it's long, but it still is long. But usually if it's like a really good game, I don't mind. But the game that I'm talking about is Civolution, which, holy crap. I did do a video, like a solo Sunday video. I'll put it up here. I did a little bit of like a first impressions of this, but this is the most recent game from Stefan Feld. My favorite game of all time is the Castles of Burgundy. So when I heard about this one, this was one of my most anticipated of 2024. Got my hands on a copy thanks to Pegasus Spiel. Big shout out to them for sending this over. But I was able to play this with some friends, and it did take a really long time. I think from start to finish. I will say that we had to punch this and like set it up and stuff as well. But after all was said and done, I think it was like 5 hours that it took us to do all of that. But it was such a fantastic game, and I've been wanting to get it to the table ever since, especially solo. I feel like this one would play really good solo. But there is a ton going on in this game. It is a dice action selection game. Basically, you have a bunch of dice that you're going to roll, and then each of these different actions, there are a ton of different actions that you can perform that are upgradable actions, that you have these little tiles that you can flip over in order to upgrade it, and then take the tile out in order to upgrade it again. And all of these different actions are going to allow you to do something different. But each action requires 2 numbers of dice to use in order to perform that action. So you are using those dice, kind of like in the Castles of Burgundy, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the game, in order to do these different actions. You have different goals that you're achieving. You are placing out workers and farms and ships and different things out onto this map. You're also going out and exploring different terrains on this map and different places on this map that you can then flip over and build things on. You can find different resources throughout this map that you can then take back and use those resources to play out these different cards. The cards are one of my favorite parts of this game as well, because you're playing out this kind of tableau of cards. That the like placement of cards is very interesting, because you have to decide what column you want to place certain things in. So if you start placing your green cards, for example, in one spot, you then have to place your green cards just in that column, and you can't place green cards anywhere else. You also have to decide where you want to place your completed gold tiles, and you can only place them in that column. And you are trying to complete rows of these different cards in order to score more and more victory points, which I think is very cool. But like I said, each column needs to be a different type of card or tile. So super cool in that aspect or that regard. My least favorite part of this, I think I explained a little bit in that last video, but it has a little bit of like, I said 4X, but I don't think it's actually 4X, but you're going out on this map with your different people, and you're going and exploring and exploiting these different lands for these different resources, which is okay. It's not like my favorite thing ever, but I think I'm just typically not great at that type of game where I'm going out with these different people and exploring and expanding and exploiting and stuff. I just was not good at that part, and a lot of my people died because I wasn't able to feed them and different things like that. If you're not able to feed them, they get tipped over, and then if you're not able to feed them again, then they get taken off of the board, different things like that. You can do different actions in order to stand them back up again and stuff like that. But anyways, this is a big boy. I could talk about this game for hours, but we are not going to do that. Just know that I really, really enjoyed Civolution. If you enjoy the Castles of Burgundy, also if you enjoy games like Terra Mystica, what is that other game? Age of Innovation, Gaia Project, different games like that. It kind of has some similarities to that. I've only played Age of Innovation, and I can kind of see a little bit of the map part of that in this game, along with that kind of dice mechanism that you know and love from Castles of Burgundy. So yes, that is Civolution, my second favorite game of the last 3 months. All right, and the last game that I wanted to talk about, I have fallen in love with this game. And I'm gonna be honest, I was hearing a lot of people talk about this game, and they're like, this is such an amazing game. And I kind of looked into like the mechanisms of this game. It didn't really seem like anything special. It has a little bit of like worker placement, resource gathering, and then like card playing. But there's just something about this game that I really, really enjoy. And it's not like a terribly heavy game, which I think is something that really speaks to the types of games that I enjoy. But the game that I am talking about is Wondrous Creatures. So this was sent over to me by Bad Comet Games, so a huge shout out to them. I am so happy that I was able to try this one out, because it really surprised me, and obviously I really enjoyed it because it's my number one. But yeah, it is a game where you have these different workers. Everyone has 3 different creatures that you're going to be placing out onto the map, and once you've placed all 3 of those, you have to do a reset turn to bring them back. But one of your creatures is going to have your captain on it, which is like a little magnet that you like sit your little captain on your creature. Anyways, you're gonna be placing a creature out onto the board, and the creature is going to take up 2 kind of hexagon spots, and then you're going to be taking the resources or the matching card of the matching habitat from the wilderness. That's how you get cards into your hand. And then you're going to gain the resources, like I said. And then another action you can take on your turn is playing cards into your tableau. There are 5 different types of cards. They're your basic like instant, ongoing, reset or refresh cards. So you get to perform that action every time that you reset. You also have these like energy cards that you put energy onto them, and then every time you take an energy off, you get to perform that action. Then there's also one more type of card, endgame cards. endgame cards, endgame scoring. So you have those 5 different types of cards, and you're going to be using the resources in order to place them into your tableau. And each of those cards are going to have different creature icons on them and different habitat icons on them. And then you're going to have these different objectives that are either going to be like reach a certain amount of these creature icons, and then you can kind of achieve that achievement and place your little thing on it that gets you a reward, and then you get victory points for that, and you get this little trophy as well. There's also going to be objectives that are time-based, so whoever gets there first, whoever achieves that first gets to get the highest victory point area, and so on and so forth. And it is just so satisfying, and it kind of lays in that perfect middle space that I think just this year I have discovered that I really enjoy a good medium weight game. I really enjoy like heavier games as well, but I have to be in a very specific mood in order to want to play those. But games that give me a perfect medium, like it gives me a lot to think about, it has a lot of depth of strategy, but it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it doesn't take too long, and it doesn't take too much thought. I just love those games. Some perfect medium. River of Gold is another one that I've discovered this year that kind of just lays in that perfect middle area. There's also a game called Korra, Rise of Empire or something like that I really want to get as well, because that kind of was in that perfect middle space as well. I just love a good medium Euro, you know? And I've discovered that this year, and Wondrous Creatures just gives me that perfect medium weight game with amazing art, very fun gameplay with the perfect amount of strategic depth. I have just really, really enjoyed it. So that is my number 1 for the last 3 months. Wondrous Creatures. All right, friends, so that is going to be everything for today's video. Like I said, hopefully this isn't too long, but I like to talk about board games, and I'm sure you guys like to listen about board games as well. So yeah, hopefully that's okay. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Another shout out to Level Up Retreat. I will be going to that at the end of January. So definitely, if you guys are interested in joining and attending as well, definitely go and check out the Level Up website down below. Grab your tickets, join, come play some games. I would love to play some games. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you so, so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you in the next board game video. Bye, friends.